You are now listening to Discovering Discovery, a podcast where we get together and discuss the show Star Trek Discovery and often beat our heads against the wall. Although this episode we saw some glimmers of hope, but
I thought that was the next episode we saw glimmers of hope.
No, next episode we saw actual hope. This where we thought we might see hope. But yes, as you can clearly tell, we are recording this after we already recorded the show. I was trying to keep an illusion up, and my co-host, which by the way, my name is John Quick, and then one of my co-hosts is named.
My name is Megan Washington, and I had to Google what this episode was about.
And this is Greg Payton. I'm just the passenger in the back seat, just laughing my ass off.
So this episode was titled.
Wait, was this the one where they had the Vulcan mind jumpy hop thing?
Yes.
I'm on the same page now.
It's about ready to tell them the title of the episode because fuck that. We're moving on. Look it up yourselves. I don't care.
Pronounce the title.
But yes, as always, spoiler warnings are in effect. If you do not feel like being spoiled for this episode because you have not seen it, I suggest you stop listening now.
Warp 9, baby. Warp 9.
Heading off to Warp 9. Yeah, we have a lot to say about this episode. Greg was about ready to go off when after we got done watching, and I had to remind him that we were currently not rolling. But this seems to be a very emotional episode that we just had. Well, not so much for the characters, but I mean for us. There was a lot of shouting that was happening as we were watching it. There's a lot of
like angry confusion.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
what the fucks.
Why are we even doing this? What is happening? That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works.
A lot of emotional inconsistencies for character.
A lot of really bad dialogue. A lot of really bad acting. A lot of really awful costuming.
It's just it's frustrating. It's very frustrating because they're trying to, the show now is trying to posit this notion that everything that the captain's been doing has been, overtly dangerous, overtly rogue, and
or here's what I'm thinking. What I'm thinking is they're looking at it and they're going, "Oh wait, hang on." Or at least half of them is going, "Oh wait, hang on. None of this actually is like Star Trek, so we have to have some kind of like the essence of the show." So we had. What's his name? The albino dude, who's not an albino. Team Super Blonde.
Anthony Rapp, or are
Anthony Rapp?
No, that Anthony Rapp was a character in American Sniper, or not American Sniper, in Mitch Rapp. I'm thinking Mitch Rapp. That's a different character. What's his name?
Stamets is his character's name.
Stamets.
We were using the actor's name.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was strangely optimistic and excited to do science. Right?
And I'm wondering, is it the effect of the experiment he did on himself?
Hang on. We have to go back again because there's something else much bigger in this episode, which we're gonna call it the Game of Thrones effect, because
that's what bothers you.
Time and distance. I'm gonna go with that's the big thing with this episode.
Really?
If I had to pick one thing for this episode to be like the big thing,
really? Okay.
It's gonna be that time and distance do not matter.
Let me do just a quick recap for all of us, so we all know, and for those listening, just like what happened this episode.
Head table.
Basically,
do we know what happened this episode though?
Let me see.
Okay, wait, here's the other
let me
thing.
try to
Here's
break
the
it
other
down.
thing.
All right. Okay.
This episode, so far, by far, has had the most traditional structure that's more reminiscent of a Star Trek episode.
I would agree with that.
True. I would agree with that as well.
Which is weird. It's awkward at this point.
Well, and unfortunately, I mean, not unfortunately, but you definitely see the attempts of trying to course correct.
We'll get into that though, because that goes hand in hand with some other things.
Okay, so brief recap. Sarek is going to go to a apparent peace meeting with a couple of the heads of the 24 Klingon houses. Ends up there is some sort of Vulcan extremist that tries to suicide bomb himself. So then the most of the show becomes a mission to
Save Sarek.
to save Sarek, which they're going to be using some sort of Vulcan mind meld super enhancer in order to do that. And while that is going on, and Michael is trying to find Sarek and finding out that Sarek basically had to choose between sending his son Spock to the Vulcan Expeditionary Service or sending Michael, he chose Spock. And that was kind of like a big to-do there. And then the entire time, the captain is basically a dick to a Vulcan admiral. So the other admiral that we've seen is his friend shows up. They bang, and then he does something that kind of sets her off, and she's just like, "Okay, you're gonna be out of the captain's chair. I'm gonna go do this."
Which I have multiple
thing.
problems with that too, but we can come back to that,
Yeah.
I guess, if you want to
Yeah, I'll just finish
work
up.
our way through.
And then she goes to the peace treaty thing, and it's just one giant trap set by the Klingons, and then that's basically episode end.
Yeah, that's basically what happens. So first of all,
Yes,
time and distance
time and distance
do not matter. There's a couple great examples of why time and distance don't matter. So first of all, we're not even going to touch on the Vulcan mind meld at this point. They're like, hey, we need to make some sort of mind meld supercharger. Brand new technology, never been done before, literally doesn't exist.
Well,
It'll take me 20 minutes.
Well, they got the Vulcan cell phone connection.
Right, but he has to create the device that custom fit to her head to enhance the Vulcan cell phone connection. Takes him 15 minutes, right? So we have that.
God damn it, Megan, plot.
Secondly, so they're going to take a shuttlecraft because they have the new chief of security who was, which by the way, everybody else on the ship has to be pissed because there's some security officer who's like, fuck yeah, I'm next in command. This is going to be great. My career, I'm moving up the ladder.
Nah,
and they're
fuck
like,
you,
no,
homie. We're replacing him with a POW.
we found this random POW. He's going to take your job. Okay.
So with no heavily legitimate reason given other than the fact that, oh yeah, bro, we can do this holodeck together. Yeah, bro, you have more kills, bro. You kill more Klingons, so therefore you're the head of security now. The fuck?
He did murder himself a lot of Klingons previous episodes.
Seriously?
True.
You're a fucking POW.
But back to time and space.
No, but this guy could pull a McCain on the fucking ship. Seriously? You want this guy head of your security?
Back to time and space. We'll come back to that. Okay? So they decide, first of all, and again, I don't think they understand how space works. They find out that Sarek was missing because she has a bad dream, right?
Yeah.
They don't know.
She collapses in pain.
She has a bad. She collapses in pain and has a psychic vision.
Yes.
Due to her mind meld with Sarek.
Yes.
Which we're not going to talk about that.
That's always connected. That's,
so she knows.
He is always inside of her. Yes. That's pretty much what they established the entire time.
Right. So she goes, "Oh my God, he's in trouble. We have to get in a shuttlecraft and go find him." Now again, this ties back into the thing where I don't think you understand how big space is, because first of all, they'd have to contact command to see where Sarek was having this, what I would imagine would be a super top secret mission, because his helmsman doesn't even know what's going on.
Yeah.
Right? So nobody knows about this mission. It's not like they can casually be like, oh yeah, the one where he's going over to this planet and everybody knows about it, because nobody's going to know about it.
It seems to be admiral level knowledge.
So they'd have to, she would have to convince her captain. The captain would have to convince an admiral to give them some top secret information of where he was going.
Exactly.
So they'd even have an idea of where to look.
Exactly.
So who knows how far the Discovery was from this point. So they had to get to wherever they're going, and then they send them off in a shuttlecraft instead of taking the entire ship. So you have a shuttlecraft, which you've already established has no sensors. They're just kind of going out there, doing blindfolded guy in the dark kind of thing, trying to figure out where Sarek is. So she has another one of her dreams thanks to her super fast like mind meld, and wakes him up enough so that he can turn on the homing beacon so they can use the homing beacon to track and find him. While this is happening, the Admiral shows up at the Discovery because who knows where she was. So she just cruises over to Discovery in the time it takes them, which passage of time-wise, based on what they're talking about, less than a day to go and find Sarek. So she shows up super quick. She hooks up with the captain. Wakes him up. Like, dude obviously has PTSD. She wakes him up out of nowhere. He's like, grabs his gun, which is a totally standard PTSD reaction. She goes, oh, obviously you lied on your psyche valves because you're insane. It's like, or you stuck up on somebody who has PTSD while they were sleeping.
But once again, we've never even established how heavy his PTSD has been up until this point.
Up until this point, it's not been established at all.
I mean, we heard about his injury in the pilot, but we've never seen the effects of those injuries and the reactions up until now.
Right. So then she leaves.
I mean, I guess other than, hey, mutineer, only mutineer in Starfleet history. She's on my ship. I think I could make her a crew member.
You're affected, man. You have a problem. If that's what you're calling a symptom, then fucking
right.
God bless you. But
so then at this point, they find out that she's just gonna. He talks her into going on the diplomatic mission instead. So she leaves in her shuttle, and theoretically would pass Michael Burnham's shuttle on the way back.
Hey,
she
Michael.
Goes off,
hey.
She goes off to have her Klingon, like powwow.
Wherever the
Michael
fuck it
Burnham
is.
comes back with Sarek. Before any of this happens, by the way, like before she gets there, Michael Burnham gets back. They take a look at Sarek. They bring him back around. She has a conversation with Sarek. Captain's off doing other stuff. Completely different outfit. Maybe next day, we don't know. When he finds out that she got like kidnapped by the Klingons. How they found out, we don't know. Did the Klingons send a message saying, oh, by the way, we kidnapped your admiral?
No, we have your shit.
We don't know. So I'm just saying, like, the entire timeline of this episode is probably like the worst yet.
It's. I mean, definitely the structure is definitely most like a traditional Star Trek episode that we've seen with some adjustments. But time and space are a major issue, and I feel like there are a lot of plot choices being made. I mean, normally my position here would be to antagonize the living fuck out of Megan, be like, oh, that's just a show, Megan, get fucking over it. However,
well, no, but that's the thing. It's the Game of Thrones effect all over again, because the fact that like the White Walkers have spent the last 4 seasons trying to get to the wall.
Yes.
Meanwhile, we're gonna have Jon Snow bounce literally all around Westeros really quick.
Yes.
The White Walkers still haven't made it to the wall yet.
And the only difference with that is because you have such solid character building and story behind it that you can forgive the teleportation that happens in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, but you really can't, because it takes away the gravity of what's happening.
It does. It definitely does happen. But with this particular show, again, if we're talking about
all right,
Starfleet at war.
No, but it's the same thing.
All right,
here
I'll say this. I'll say this. In Game of Thrones, it's somehow more forgivable when I'm talking about a show that has literal teleportation technology, and I'm actually noticing and getting pissed about them teleporting about. In Star Trek, they have literal teleporters, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Well,
Game of Thrones, they have at most dragons, and I'm like, yeah, I'll live with it.
Here's the thing, though.
Yeah.
I would believe it if, A, they were next to a space station and she beamed aboard. You'd be like, all right,
No, they're going to land the ship
if
in space.
B, if multiple ships did have the spore drive, which they don't at this point because the Discovery is the only one.
Because they blew the other one up.
Because that would explain how she got to them so quickly if she was on a ship that had a spore drive, because then she could materialize next to them.
Almost
but she doesn't.
Yeah.
So she can't.
Right.
It's almost more infuriating because there are ways where they could explain this away if they took the time and the effort to do it.
Well, there are just some logistical.
But they just chose not to.
There are logistical things, and I feel like what the biggest issue I've been having with Star Trek from the get go is that, with the exception of the pilot, it's just that since we've been at war, once again we have not seen this war.
Right.
All we've been doing is talking about this war, how fucked up it is.
Well, it's turning into a Cold War at this point.
I mean, the thing is, the frustrating
Which
thing
is also weird because the Klingons would never engage in a Cold War.
I mean, I would completely understand. Definitely, quick. We discussed this before about the whole budgetary reasons. I get it. You can't show a war all the time just because it's very costly. However, I remember vividly, again, to bring up DS9 during the whole Dominion War, even though they were unable to show you combat scenes, they did a remarkable job keeping you up to date as to casualties here on colony so and so. These many officers died. So and so. Starfleet here. So like you kept the tally, and they kept a running tally as to what was happening with Starfleet and the Dominion. You knew what was going on.
Well, that too can be like, again, poor writing. All of the stories on the ship are contained on the ship. We don't know where the ship is.
Nope.
There's no context for where the ship is.
Nope.
Like, the smart thing to do would have them, dealing with a colony that was hit in a battle or something near the Klingon border, which is why they're close to the Klingon border again, know? So the ship is dealing with an issue, which is why the ship can't go to find Sarek, which is why they send a shuttle instead, because they can't leave the planet.
Yeah,
There's so many little things that are really easy that they could do to make so much of this make sense that they're just not doing.
And once again, if we're talking about, if we're really talking about the captain and the effects of what war has on people, it's a great opportunity to actually explore what happens to people, when they are, in wartime and when they have to, be in charge and try and lead normal lives. And we don't get that. All we got in the previous few episodes were a lot of cantankerous Starfleet people.
Well, okay.
And then now everyone's trying to be a little bit lighter, a little bit more jovial, and all of a sudden having these sudden outbursts of random behavior that wasn't planted. The captain having these moments, these impulse reactions, they weren't really planted. It was just him coming off as a dick.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff out of the blue.
Well, the other thing I'm thinking about, the Admiral, and I'm totally spacing what Admiral, like, it's like Cromwell?
I feel
Cornwall,
like this also ties back into the show that just nobody matters enough for us to remember their names.
That could be it as well. But she said that, oh my God, you've changed over these last few months. You've changed. The fuck are you talking about? This is the guy that torpedoed his own ship as soon as he got the fuck clear, and it was just like, oh yeah, I'm saving all my crew. Bye,
and by
bitches.
the way, you gave that same guy a ship.
Yeah,
just so you're clear, Admiral, you gave that motherfucker a ship.
And like, what change is going through? As far as I can tell, the guy's always been a sociopath.
The other thing, too, that's weird is that they're thrusting weird relationships on us, right?
Yeah, they're forcing it. It's forced.
Yeah. So we haven't seen them have any kind of a relationship beyond the professional one, and now they've secretly been, like, hooking up.
And we can believe they're friends. I mean, we can definitely believe they're friends, and they well laid that track to establish, okay, they're friends. Okay, she obviously
we've established that they know each other.
Yeah, she made Admiral before he did. I get that. But in terms of that, they were hooking up, and before, that just didn't seem necessary.
No, it didn't seem necessary at all. Like, it was a convenient way for them to have him pull the gun on her,
Yeah, that could have happened in any other stressful situation.
He could have been taking a nap, and she walked into his quarters or something. There's a lot of. It's just weird. A lot of the ways they put this together.
Or it very well could have occurred during
the
holodeck simulation. It could have happened there.
Yeah, it could have been her and him in the holodeck situation, like shooting it. We don't know.
Yeah, the disco shirts I don't get.
I really don't understand the disco shirts. That's my second big thing with this episode.
To be clear, for those fans out there who love disco, I'm all about the disco. The shit's cool, but I got no idea why it says disco on their shirts. It's just, was it like an in-joke?
Was there like a scene that's missing where they went shopping together to bond and they bought disco shirts? We don't know.
Did someone in the wardrobe say, hey, I have a great idea. How about we just put disco in their shirts?
Like, everybody's really into retro stuff.
Everybody's
really into retro stuff, so we're going to give you a disco shirt.
You know what? You also like how the food replicators judge you for what your food is.
They're getting fat shamed on the Enterprise.
Yeah, it's fucking you got this is fucking fat shaming and shit.
This
like,
is
what
your
the fuck
green
is
tea.
this?
Your green tea is full of antioxidants. It's gonna keep you from getting wrinkles, man.
Thanks, food replicator. Who the fuck said it to annoying Californian?
I know. It's super weird.
You've exceeded your carb intake
the
for
worst
the day.
part about that,
but
though,
if you're okay with that, then so am I.
Here's the worst part about that. She ordered these like super bland like egg white and black bean burritos, right?
Yeah.
Because it's healthy and whatever. And all I can think about is like, why the fuck are you eating that tortilla then? You know how many carbs are in that tortilla? You're trying to get this girl to lose weight and trim down, and you're jogging around the Enterprise or the Discovery, and you're making her eat a tortilla. Where's the lettuce wrap?
The only thing that would have made it better is if the replicator had said avocado. Do you want avocado?
There's no avocado. The whole like blackened tomatoes thing, like you don't give. I don't think they understand how food works. Because
okay, so first of all, the fact that we're having a conversation about this shit tells you what's wrong with this fucking
900% sure that
in case anybody is wondering, we live in Los Angeles. I just want everybody to know that this is this is a thing that we all know about because we live in this fucking city. Yes.
Toasting a tomato does not make it more nutritionally dense. That's some bullshit. Why she thinks that a blackened tomato is healthier than salsa? It's the same thing. It's the same thing, you guys.
You better have some facts to back that shit. You have a whole bunch of angry nutritionists and fucking people coming after you.
As someone who has to pay a lot of attention to food, okay, I'm upset with this. There should have been some lettuce wraps. Let the girl have her salsa because salsa is not unhealthy.
I mean,
you know, given this much, at least they had some light moments this time around.
They did.
With Tilly.
They totally did.
I'll give the episode
totally
this much.
Did. Yeah.
They had some like nice light moments, and then Tilly.
If by fat shaming you mean that's
light
fun.
moments, yeah.
Yeah.
That was
in comparison to everything else. Yes, fat shaming is light.
They're like, look,
in
you're the one
future,
person on the ship.
Shaming.
You're the one person on the ship that isn't super svelte. Ergo, you must go on a diet.
And therefore, you can never be fucking captain. All right, you need to get your fat ass in the gym. You can't be captain this way.
It was weird. It was super weird. It was aggressive in like a really bad way. They're promoting negative messages. You know,
and that was what they used to have them bond. It's like
they had them bond by making fun of the one chubby girl on the ship. This is terrible.
As I recall, Battlestar Galactica had Fat Lee for a while, and they did a better job with that, getting him to get back in shape.
Well, here's a question about that. Do you guys ever watch Lost? I mean, I didn't watch Lost because I thought it was going to be like Gilligan's Island, so I only made it through like 3 episodes because I was really disappointed. But it's kind of like the Hurley question.
I honestly think we lost more listeners with that one comment than anything else.
The moment they heard Lost, like, fuck it.
I was really excited for Gilligan's Island, you guys, and it was not Gilligan's Island. Here's the thing.
I can't say I feel sorry for you on that.
Come back, guys. Come back. We're not talking about Lost. We promise. Just
Hurley
come back.
was on that island for 9 years. Dude didn't lose any weight.
Now who's fat shaming?
That's not fat shaming. That's logic shaming. Not that show made sense anyway. But they were straight up starving. Okay, nobody started a farm last time I checked.
It's already gone on too long.
We're
tangent.
We're this weird fat shame. Well, okay.
Tangent.
So, to go back, like kind of the all right. I gave you Discovery. I gave you your
back
one.
To Disco shirts.
I gave you your one. Now I'm gonna hit you again with what the fuck is up with the Klingons? I'm literally like.
Are we gonna skip over the random love interest scene in the cafeteria?
Oh fuck that! Oh man.
I want to talk about the goddamn Klingons, but if you want to talk about that weird ass scene, go for it. The 2 weird ass scenes.
There's some really weird, like they're trying to build a personal connection. These 2 have never met before. Literally never met before. Suddenly, she's sharing some like deep shit. He is like, I don't know how long they were on that shuttle because again, passage of time. We have no context for this. It was just really weird.
It would be one thing if the new guy, the former POW, had a mind meld with Burnham,
or
in which case you could see how their emotions can be intertwined.
Or it was just the 2 of them
new
on
guy
the ship.
who's clearly Vok in disguise. Let's face it, the dude's a Klingon. We all fucking know he's a Klingon. Okay, I could probably look it up right now and like see that he's a Klingon, but I already know.
You guys, here's the thing. There's an episode of Next Generation where Captain Picard was taking Wesley off to go to Starfleet Academy, and they crash landed on a planet, right? And they bonded because Wesley had to figure out how to get them water. It's a whole thing.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, no, I remember
Right?
that. I remember that. Yeah,
It could have been an entire episode where Michael Burnham and this dude are like going off somewhere and they crash land.
Well, there was
and
also
they have to get water.
Yeah, no, and there was an episode where Tuvok, he also crash lands on a planet and ends up bonding with like Lori Petty.
Yeah.
And
so the thing is that we're missing all of the like, I don't want to call them boring episodes, but we're missing all of the stuff that like ties everybody together and creates the relationships. They've cut out all of it.
No, character development. We're missing a lot of character development, but we don't need
That's what
character development. We got our captain looking at himself in a reflection, and then we pan down
packing heat.
Yeah,
in his back pocket.
Yeah.
Who needs character development when you can shove a phaser up your butt?
Yeah, no, like they do a lot of what I like to call like the character development shorthands. Like when we saw Stamets, like he went from being a redhead to now he's blonde. So again,
I'm telling
he's
you,
got
quick, that was
character
color
development.
correction. I'm telling you, like
no,
chill.
dude
That
got
was color
character
correct,
development
bro.
hair. That's like the character development fucking beard.
That was a special
that's
effect.
how
Do we have
that's
to
how you can tell a man
guys,
is grizzled. He's got
I
character development beard, for fuck's sake. That's how. Yes, Stamets got character development hair. And then we got the character
Ooh.
development stare.
Look, passage of time. That would have been brilliant if he would have started the episode with no beard and then he would have created the Vulcan mind meld headpiece and had a beard at that point and been like, I haven't slept for 3 days. I made this for you.
Here is the character development beard.
Character development beard.
I've had a rough week. Here's my stubble.
Would have been perfect.
I've had a very hard life. Here's my 10 o'clock shadow.
In case you don't know, I really, really hate those shorthands. I really hate the character development
awful.
beard. I don't know why. There's always something about like those things that like annoy.
I mean, it worked.
You know,
I mean, it worked out really well in Man of Steel.
Riker
I mean, when
came
Henry
back
Cavill was rocking that shit in
Nah,
his
man, Riker
origin
came back
story.
in season 3.
I'm
and
sorry,
he had
did
a
you say
beard.
something worked in Man of Steel? Okay, God, we're fucking hitting on everything today. So sorry. Continue on Star Trek, Megan.
I was just saying, that I got really distracted by Man of Steel. I can't remember what I was thinking.
She
I was
got
trying to
distracted
think.
by Henry Cavill shirtless.
Look, I grew up with Christopher Reeves as Superman. Okay,
All
it's
right.
a different time.
But
It was a different time. It was.
Yes.
That S-curl mattered.
Okay, so we have 2 really interesting. Okay, here's another thing that was weird to me.
Okay.
So you got our boy the Space Cow.
Space Cow?
Space Cow.
Who's that?
Saru.
Thank you.
Thank you, Space Cow.
So he shows
Right.
up for like one scene, and his scene is really awkward because he's like, "Oh, so naturally we're just gonna zoom off and like save the day, right?" And the captain's like, "Well, no, we have to do this by the book because we're in Starfleet. So we have to like explain, send off what happened and ask for permission to go after the admiral because that's what you do in a navy." And you're like, "Well, yes, traditionally that would be what you do."
But
And it's really weird that at this point you're going backwards. Like, first of all, they're just kind of always fucking off doing whatever they want. And at this point he's just like, no, we have to follow the rules. And you're like, this is weird. It's even weirder that Saru thinks it's weird.
Yeah. Listen, if the fucking Space Cow's calling you out, shit's like, your plan's fucking faulty, okay? If Saru's calling you
weird.
out, it's
It's weird on a lot of levels because we don't know where his character is going. Like, for anybody else, you'd be like, oh, that's great. He's following the rules now. He's going to stick to protocol because, protocol is going to get him through. Like, it's going to keep him where he wants to be.
I'm surprised
It's not selfishly motivated. But at this point, you're like, no, he's waiting because the longer he waits, the less chances she has of getting out, the less chances she has of canning him and taking away his ship.
Which I'm surprised she doesn't immediately just kind of can him. But then again, like they did just bang each other, so I'm willing to bet that she's just like, okay, yeah, I'll wait till go back to report so you can step down gracefully. I guess.
Once again,
all right, I'm giving it. All right, now I'm seeing it.
But
Shit,
we're in a
never
time
mind.
of, but we're in a time of war, and technically speaking, it would actually make sense for her to just come in and be like, listen, you're out. This other admiral is in. Take your shit. Go in the brig. And
that's like,
she'll
here's
be
the
well
thing
within
too,
her right to do that.
They're cramming too much story into the episodes. Like, that in itself isn't it? It's an entire own episode, right? Where they do make him step down. They do bring in somebody else to be the captain of the Discovery, and it doesn't work, and he gets to earn his ship back. Like, that alone is an entire episode,
and a great one, and a fucking great one. And Michael Burnham can help with that. I mean, that's she could be the guiding force that gets him back in the chair.
There's
know what I mean?
at least 3 episodes worth of storylines here. And that's like, I mean, traditionally you do have like the 3 different storylines running at the same time, but this one I think has 3 different like standalone episodes worth of plot happening.
Because I mean, I get the impression, I think we're all kind of feeling it, that they're trying to do a very hard course correct, and God bless them for trying. Like listen, knock on wood. They tried to do a massive course correct, and you can feel it, but it's very hard to cut to the chase with character development, with story, and with an arc in one episode. It's very hard to do.
I am curious what the remaining episodes are going to be like, just because it does seem like they're kind of slamming on the brakes and turning in a completely different direction right now. So I am curious if they kind of got it out of their system, the part where they were trying to make it really different so that they could be the really different Star Trek show.
Because it also too breaks with consistencies, because again, in the previous episode we learned that he blew up his last ship. Now I don't know if he was lying in that whole fucking thing.
No, he's not. It's just going to be conveniently forgotten.
It's just
they're going to move on.
Because quick, you were saying if you blew up your last ship, why they fucking give you a new ship? Is it because you're expendable? Is it that they don't care what happens to your ass? I don't get
again, it would make perfectly fine sense if the Federation had been wiped out and there was a shortage of captains, especially captains with experience.
Yeah.
Like if there would have been, a scene or something where they actually talked about it, you could have been like, okay, like we went over this. We know why he's still there.
Yeah. I mean, once again, I feel like they're just, it's like, I feel like whenever I'm watching an episode of Discovery, I feel like, oh shit, did I miss an episode? Then I realize, no, I didn't miss an episode. I'm just missing shit. I'm just missing story.
Yeah.
In the sense that, I keep hearing we're at war. Where's the war? It's like, where are the bodies? Where's the casualty report? How are we doing? Yeah, I'm at no point.
Well, that's the other thing too, is because it has turned into some sort of weird Cold War, but they never explained that it turned into a Cold War. There was never like the big, battles and then the stalemate. We don't have any of that to set it up.
No, I mean, a lot of it is, Star Trek dorming. It was like, oh, we're in this dorm and it's a ship and we're just doing shit.
Can we talk about the Klingons now? Can we?
Yeah.
Because that scene did annoy the shit out of me.
Yeah, understandably so.
Yes.
All right. So yeah, the Klingons raise a banner of peace,
right,
and invite people to come join them. Like I'm sure, like maybe I should go back and rewatch. When they talk about in that segment of the episode about that, maybe the Klingons didn't send out the invitation, but it seemed like the Klingons sent out the invite. Hey, come talk to us in the banner of peace. They show up, and then the Klingons proceed to betray literally everybody, and then take the admiral captive. That's not at all like Klingon. Like Klingons, if Klingons were gonna lay a trap, it wouldn't have been that.
The Klingon trap would have been like, bring your entire starship here to where we're having the peace treaty,
and we'll murk
we're
you
gonna
all.
Uncloak, like
all of our birds of prey,
all at the same time,
and murk you all. Yeah.
Yeah. Completely different.
Which I mean, essentially, they could have just replicated the pilot and just said, okay, yeah, just show up, all cool, bro, yeah, all cool. And
on the other hand, our subtitles weren't working, so we're just about as clued in as the Admiral would be, because I'm pretty sure her universal translator wasn't working because they were speaking Klingon, so I don't think she knows what's happening.
That could have just been the faulty episode, admittedly, though.
We're just gonna pretend that she doesn't know what's happening either.
Yeah.
Well, we sure as hell don't. Like Cole.
Well, and then you had those two, like, really, there's like a really interesting new alien species, and they're like, oh, it's okay, we just killed him. Don't worry about it. It's like, what planet are these people from? Are there going to be repercussions from that planet? Is it a Federation planet? Does it exist within the neutral zone? Like, we don't know.
No one even gives a shit.
That's true. Nobody cares. Literally, nobody cares.
There's a lot going on, and obviously, I do not envy the room full of writers. I have to fucking keep track of all this shit.
They're not keeping track of anything.
I really don't envy them, because it's a lot of shit from a lot of different storylines, and it's a headache and a half. But there's a lot to be said for to use a phrase, plotting a course and trying to really make it gel, and you catch a hernia trying to lift this shit, man. Try to figure this out.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I really want the Klingons to act like Klingons. I don't know why I'm obsessed with this. I don't know why this pisses me off. I guess it's kind of because we know how Klingons are supposed to be, and they're not even acting like anything in relation like to Klingons or
like,
what
not
Klingons.
even vaguely.
Yeah,
It's not even the fact that they look nothing like Klingons at this point. It's the fact that they behave nothing like Klingons. Like, none of them.
Technically speaking, they're not Klingons. I don't give a fuck. You know, at this point, fuck it. They're not fucking Klingons. They're not fucking Klingons.
Well, and it's one of those things where they wanted a recognizable name. Like, they could have made them any alien species, and it would have.
And there could have been more than one warrior type of alien species. They didn't have to just be Klingons. Because there is.
And it would have been more interesting, and it would have been more, like, curious about it. Because this is a species that we know nothing about, and we're learning all about them, you know? But instead they label them as Klingons, and now it's just weird because we know we know what they're supposed to be like, and they're not what they're supposed to be like.
Yeah, well, I guess we know, and then everybody else, like, doesn't. I guess they just want to, like, show them as, like, space conquerors or something. They're, like, they're...
But we're not even sure what they're really trying to paint them as because it keeps changing and there's no consistency and it's just like really weirdly done.
Yeah, the biggest challenge is trying to figure out the motivations of the Klingons right now, because the motivations initially, you know, it was, you know, unifying the houses against Starfleet. You know, then it was, well, now we're cannibals, or now we're eating humans.
Well, yeah, but now there's the two houses that aren't actually part of the.
Yeah, and right now it's very unclear as to, you know, what's the goal with the Klingons? Just to kill Starfleet? Okay, you know.
I guess going back to Star Trek aliens not acting like themselves, so the Vulcans are super racist now.
There's all sorts of weird shit going on with the Vulcans now.
Vulcans are all fucking MAGA crazy. They've received all of our transmissions from this day and age, and now they're all trying to make America great again by making Vulcan great again, I guess.
Like they're saying, like the suicide bomber was just like, you know, humans are inferior. You need to understand that. And then the one guy is like for the Vulcan expeditionary service, he was just like, we'll only accept one of your little human experiments.
I was like, we can appreciate your little you know, experiments, but no.
Like, here's the thing with that too. Yes, the Vulcans did see themselves as superior to the humans, but they had a completely different
it was
way
based
of viewing
purely in logic, purely in an arrogant sense of air of logic that was based.
Well, and it was too, because like on paper they were superior.
But yeah, no, but on paper, physically, intellectually, but it was all based on quantifiable things,
right?
That were grounded in intelligence.
So, like, I mean, initially they ignored humans on Earth because they were too primitive, so they had literally no need to go and
they had
Earth.
to wait until they got warp class engines.
Right, so they broke the warp barrier, so then the Vulcans were interested, and that's why they came to Earth to check it out. And then, you know, they stayed on Earth to work with the humans because they're interested in what they could achieve.
Do you want to pause for a second? Because I did the worrying.
All right, hold on.
So
fuckery, just
But here's the thing: Star Trek has a level of fuckery. Okay.
Yeah, but it was consistent in what it was based on. It was the fuckery was in the philosophy. So you can go. So you went along with the fuckery.
All right. So Megan, just to go back.
So just to like. Here's the thing. So the Vulcans were interested in people because they were a primitive species, and they were fascinated by them. It was kind of like a pet thing, you know, like we're gonna see what they can do. Because Vulcans live for like 200 to 300 years, right? So it's not a big deal for them to hang around at Earth for any length of time and see what happens.
Sure.
You know? So the Vulcans literally stand side by side with humans. Like, and if you watch Enterprise, you've seen this, like with Captain Archer.
Totally.
They literally have all this technology and they're not giving to them because they want them to learn. They want them to achieve that level.
Absolutely.
So it's from a completely different place than what was happening in this episode. Like, they're withholding the technology from them, they're working with them, they're encouraging them to grow and to become better.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And in this one, it's kind of like they're like, ugh, like humans, ugh. You know, it's this really weird, complete opposite of what it's supposed to be.
Absolutely. And I think that touches on what you were talking about before, and that we were all kind of noticing about the fact that everything seems and feels very dumbed down.
Oh, extremely.
Like anti-intellectual. There's some sort of embargo
Very much
against
so.
being intellectual. You know,
Well,
every other previous incarnation, even the previous movies, had a level of intellectualism that has been, you know, shot out of the fucking vacuum of space.
Well, yeah, because they never for 1 second considered that the audience was stupid before. Like we've, you know, just from like the nature of the material that was covered to how it was covered, the way the characters spoke to each other, they gave the audience a lot of credit, and they're like, you know, if you don't get it, work to get it, you know?
Yeah, catch up.
Like there's an entire episode where the two main characters can't speak to each other. Like they meet a new species of aliens. They send Captain Picard down to the planet, and they send the captain of the other ship down to the planet, and they have to learn how to communicate with each other and survive on this planet.
Yep.
And that's literally the entire episode.
Yep.
So you're sitting there with them, and they don't know how to communicate, and you go on the journey with them where they learn to communicate with each other.
Yeah.
It's always been a very, like, I want to say highbrow intellectualism to it, but it's had that. And with this, we don't have any of that. And they're dumbing things down to the point where it's below even like casual understanding.
Because the one thing I'll give, even, you know, the rebooted films under starring Chris Pine and company, you know, even though the execution changed, they never forgo the philosophy, and even though there was far more action and sex involved, they never forgoed that philosophy. You know, they never got rid of that philosophy of why they're doing everything they're doing, and the whole point of Starfleet and the whole point of exploration. They never dumbed down these different things, and the stakes were always high, and they were always in your face. Unfortunately, it's not as apparent here, and I can appreciate nuanced, drawn out, overarching, serialized storytelling, but I feel like once they got rid of the instantaneous teleporting creature that was being killed by making all the jumps, it's as if to say, okay, that was an arc that we're done with. Now we're on a whole new arc. It's like, is that so? Really, you're on a new arc? No one told us.
Well, you know, it's the Vulcan supremacist arc. So
Shit.
obviously Vulcans are just so inherently great. Like it's just one of those things. It does seem very anti-Vulcan, and that might be part of the point where it's just like where they're not going to accept.
Well, here's the thing
any
about
non-Vulcans
that too.
into the expeditionary.
You can say they watched the reboot movies and they did see where Spock was getting picked on, right?
Yeah.
So you could say, oh, Vulcans are racist because they're picking on them. Like if you're not reading more into it, I can see how you would get that from it.
Sure, okay.
In actuality, in that scene, the kids are literally doing a science experiment. That's what's happening. They're keeping logs of how many times they're harassing him because they want to see what it takes to elicit an emotional response from him. They know that he's not Vulcan. They're literally doing an experiment.
It just
it's a logic-based experiment.
It just appears like teasing on the surface.
It does.
Because that's a part of the experiment.
Because he's emotional, and that's how he's going to perceive it.
Exactly, yeah.
They're literally doing a science experiment to see how far a human goes versus...
Right.
Like, it's all very logical what they're doing.
Right.
You don't have that here.
Right.
There's not that same
correct me
logic
if I'm wrong,
there.
but the last true Vulcan that I had experienced watching for 7 seasons was Tuvok. He was like the last Vulcan I saw who was actually a full Vulcan, and I just don't understand how they're handling the Vulcans in such a way that is not purely based in logic and intellectualism, and
no,
that
basically
is all
what
just
they've gotten from it is that Vulcans have a specific way of speaking and they talk like this, and that's basically all they've gotten from it.
And they're elitist pricks. Like those are the only things that they're really.
Yeah.
I mean, we have seen that there are dickhead Vulcans that do think
most definitely
humans are inferior.
Right.
But it just
again though, it's based on logic and it's based on their argument of the comparison between the two.
But it's also a thing of like, I don't see that the Vulcan expeditionary service or any one
Which
of those.
we've never heard of before.
Okay, this is a brand new thing that they've come up with, where it's basically the Vulcans are not a part of Starfleet yet. This is their own, like, I guess, Vulcan exploratory.
So that's kind of a misunderstanding. The planet Vulcan is part of the Federation. Starfleet is something that exists within the Federation. They're not the same thing.
But members of the Federation can all join Starfleet.
Right.
Okay.
Oh man, I mean, I think it stands to reason to follow this course correct and see where it goes. I hope they are able to pull on this thread and continue on the path of where the captain's gonna go. I hope that we get some more clarity on our prisoner of war. I really hope they do not do another fucking fat shaming episode, because it's not fucking funny.
No, it was weird.
I'm still very curious to know more about some more of the people on the Shinjo that have made it to Discovery that we still have not.
Well, that's the thing too,
had
is
any
that we've
experience
had
with.
literally no time to sit with the ship and get to know the ship or the crew or anybody.
And we're at war where there's supposed to be a warship. They're teleporting around. They're destroying stuff. Wouldn't it be more interesting to see some episodes of that? Then we could actually get to know, like, the ship and the crew at that point. I don't know what the hell they're doing. I mean, I guess they are making it all about Michael Burnham. She is supposed to be our main character, but by the same token, I don't know. Like, they're doing this, like, weird, like, centaur of a show where it's like we're doing half man, half horse, but it's not. But instead of, like, actually making a centaur, it's like, oh, okay, but okay. So instead of arms, one of the horse legs are the arms, and then he has like a horse's head, but then also a human torso, and like they're just screwing around with it. So it's like it's technically a centaur, but it's like you wouldn't recognize it as one.
Yeah, I mean, once again, I feel like I think I said this last time, is that I think what we're suffering from is quite possibly what the writers could be suffering from, and it's the fact that there could have been so many damn cooks in this kitchen trying to pull Star Trek into a whole new different direction for a whole new audience, and instead of trying to do that, be Star Trek.
Well,
be Star Trek.
It's true, because you had a formula that worked.
Yeah, be Star Trek.
And that had, limitless possibilities. And they tried to do something different, and it's kind of like they realized that what they're doing didn't work, so now they're trying to get back to the formula, but they have all this stuff that they have to deal with before it can get to that point.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like when they brought back Star Wars. I mean, I'm pretty sure there were similar conversations as to, well, we have to modernize them for this new audience and this new crowd. It's like, well, nah, bro, no, chill, relax. Star Wars is Star Wars. It's a fucking institution. Don't change shit. Bring in new characters, fine, but Star Wars is Star Wars. You ain't gotta change shit. Just like Star Trek. No, Federation, it's institution. Starfleet, institution. Vulcans, Klingons, institutions. Move the fuck forward.
And newsflash, I'm not sure if they're aware of this, but there are literally thousands of alien races. Just throwing it out there.
I've already said it. I'm tired of going back in the goddamn past. I've already said so. I'm sick of going in the fucking past. I would love to see.
We've seen the Zindi.
Yeah,
okay,
I would
Zindi,
really love
Vulcans,
to see.
We've seen Klingons.
Yeah, species 8472.
We've seen Romulans. We've seen Remans. Like,
I would love to see a
Tellarites,
series.
Andorians,
past Voyager,
Bolians.
please.
Yeah.
But again, it's not it's not about wishing a show was something that it's not. But at the same time,
it's not even that we're wishing it was something that it's not. It's just that we wish that it did what it is well, and it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, you're a Star Trek show. Be a Star Trek show. This is what.
Well, here's the thing though. Like,
literally generations are made off of. So
a lot of people don't like Voyager, but Voyager did Voyager well. Okay, a lot of people don't like Enterprise, but Enterprise did Enterprise well.
Yeah.
And this is not doing Discovery well.
Yeah, I mean, once again, there are literally hundreds of craftspeople on this show who I can only imagine, their frustration is like they signed on to a Star Trek show, and the frustration of all the push and pull, I can only imagine, because you sign on to a Star Trek show to do Star Trek, and the level of inconsistencies frustrate us. So I can only imagine, being a crafts person, being a DP, being an editor, being a writer, and having to deal with the daily push and pull of this.
I think that's a wrap for us this week. You guys have any closing thoughts?
Disco.
Disco.